First, by Def Mega Sega on fanfiction. Pairing ShadAmy, length 7 pages in Word. It was the day after Thanksgiving, which meant that it was now Christmas time. The freedom fighters were currently setting up their Christmas tree. It was a large tree that they set up in a room in the palace. Sally Acorn was glad that she was able to use the ballroom for something. They had called the Chaotix, Knuckles, and Team Dark to help set up the tree. "Isn't mistletoe just wonderful?" Rouge giggled as she set up the plant in the doorway. "What is the point of putting a plant in the doorway?" Knuckles asked as he struggled to untangle the lights. "Don't you know the tradition about mistletoe?" Knucklehead Rouge propped her hands on her hip. "No, I don't celebrate Christmas on Angel Island," Knuckles stated. "I had to explain it to him," Sonic informed. "I just left that tradition out." "Well, that's no fair," Rouge shook her head. "Let me explain it to you, Red." She sat down next to the kid, and Knuckles tried to scoot away from her, but the bat only moved closer. The tradition is that when two people are under the mistletoe at the same time, they have to kiss. Rouge placed her finger on her lips and winked at the kid. "So does that mean Shadow and Amy have to kiss now?" He pointed over at the doorway. It had been the first to have mistletoe placed in the center. Shadow the Hedgehog and Amy Rose were standing under it. The two were having a quiet conversation as they carried in boxes of Christmas decorations. "Where is my camera?" Rouge asked herself as she quickly dashed off to grab it from her purse. "Shadow, Amy, stay exactly where you are," Rouge yelled the quick order. Amy and Shadow simply blinked as they stared at her. "What's going on?" Amy asked curiously. Sonic bit his lip as he turned away. Tails looked around the other side of the tree where he had also been trying to untangle the Christmas lights. Sally stared at them and then at the mistletoe. "This isn't going to end well," she thought. "Look up," Antoine pointed at the mistletoe. "Oh!" Amy nodded as it dawned on her. Then she looked at Shadow, who was standing beside her under the mistletoe. "Ooh!" She sucked in air through her teeth as her face turned red. Shadow stared at the plant. "I see Rouge has been busy," he muttered. "Rouge has told you the tradition, huh?" Amy gave a nervous laugh as she tried to walk away. "Amy, you get back there and kiss Shadow." Rouge turned the pink hedgehog around and pushed her back into the black hedgehog. "I need photographic evidence for future teasing." Shadow rolled his eyes. Rouge was just being ridiculous now. Plus, he didn't like the fact that everyone in the room was staring. A few were trying to hide the fact that they were staring, but they were failing at it. He looked at the pink hedgehog. She was bright red. Shadow sighed. Amy was 21 and still hadn't experienced her first kiss. He had overheard her talking about how precious she wanted her first kiss to be. Shadow didn't want to ruin that dream for her, but he also knew Rouge wasn't going to let them go unless they kissed. "Pardon me, Rouge." Shadow leaned and kissed her on the cheek. "Happy now, Rouge?" "You didn't kiss her on the lips," Rouge pouted slightly. "Why should I be the one to have Rose's first kiss? After all, she's been wanting to give it to Faker for years." Shadow pointed to the blue hedgehog. "I'd rather not get involved." Shadow walked away from his coworker. He dropped the box beside Knuckles. "You still haven't gotten the first 2 lights untangled yet?" "You want to try getting this?" Knuckles growled. "It's no walk in the park." Shadow shrugged as he sat down beside the red echidna on the floor. He was tired of bringing in boxes of lights that weren't being put up. Amy simply stared at her feet for the longest time before she walked over to Tails to bring him the box of lights she had gotten. She didn't want to admit it, but it hurt when Shadow had said Amy had been wanting to give her first kiss to Sonic. It was true. That was what she wanted, but that hope was dashed when Sonic and Sally got married. She knew her first kiss would never be with Sonic. Frankly, she had begun wondering if a first kiss was really such a special thing. Despite all the chaos, they managed to get the Christmas tree fully decorated. Everyone smiled as they stood or sat around the lit-up tree. "And it only took all day to set up," Sonic laughed as he held his wife's hands. "Stupid lights, nothing but trouble," Knuckles grumbled. "I'm heading back to my island." "Oh, come on, Knuckles," Sonic whined. "No, I'm heading home." Knuckles waved Blue Hedgehog off. Fine, I'll see you later, Sonic waved. I'm still kidnapping him on Christmas Eve for the Christmas party, Sonic chuckled. Will you be kidnapping him on New Year's again, too? Sally laughed as they interlocked arms. Of course. Amy stood up. She dusted off her skirt. It was getting late and frankly, she didn't feel like watching Sonic and Sally get all lovey-dovey. She began to walk back to her cottage. What do you want? Amy sighed. She had been hearing the soft crunching of leaves behind her for the past few minutes. She knew it was Shadow by the way the sounds were made, soft in a slow rhythm. He almost sounded like a graceful buck in the woods. You seem to be, he paused as he searched for the right word, saddened by something. Amy turned to Shadow and smiled. It was the fakest smile Shadow had ever seen on the pink hedgehog's face. Don't worry about it. I'm fine. I'll see you later. She turned and continued on her way. Shadow clenched his fist. He was soon walking side by side with the pink hedgehog. What's bothering you, Rose? Nothing, Amy stated simply. It is not nothing. Something is bothering you, Shadow glared at her. I told you I'm fine. And you're lying, Shadow pressed his forehead against her head, right to my face. And I don't like it. Amy glared back. I do. How do you know I'm lying? She wasn't sure when, but at some point, Shadow could tell whenever she told a lie, and he never failed to call her out on it. She hated it. It's easy to tell when you're lying, Rose. Just tell me what's bothering you, Shadow stated. How do you know I'm lying? Amy asked again. Tell me and I'll tell you what's bothering me. Shadow rolled his eyes. You crunch up your nose slightly when you lie. You also pick at your nails. I don't scrunch up my nose, Amy pouted. Yes, you do. You just did it, Shadow poked her in the cheek. I don't do either of those things, Amy glared at him. Really? Then what are you doing with your hands right now? Shadow pointed at her hands. Sure enough, she was picking at her nails. Amy became frantic and hid her hands behind her back. Shadow chuckled. Shut up, Amy pouted. She opened the door to her cottage. So what's bothering you? Amy stared at Shadow for a moment. She stuck her tongue out and began to close the door, only to have Shadow's foot get in the way. We had a deal, didn't we? Amy sighed as she walked to the couch. Shadow helped himself inside and closed the door behind him. I've just been wondering, is it really all that special? Shadow arched an eyebrow as he sat in the rocking chair beside the couch. I always thought the first kiss was like the most cherished things, but now I'm feeling like it's not important anymore. Like it's just a thing that happens and no one really cares. It's a weird feeling. I fantasized about my first kiss so many times since I was a little girl. And now it seems to me that it was stupid. Amy pouted as she curled up on the chair on the couch. It's just so confusing. Shadow nodded as he listened to her. He wasn't sure what to tell her to make her feel better. Shadow himself didn't see the first kiss as anything special, but he knew it always held a special meaning to Rose. Shadow merely patted her on the back. Happy to know what's bugging me now, Amy pouted at Shadow. Shadow nodded. Though I have nothing to make you feel better. Yeah, men are never good at this kind of thing, Amy laughed as she laid her head on the arm of the couch. So, because I'm a guy, I don't understand why you feel so confused about whether a first kiss is important or not. Shadow propped his arm as he looked at the pink hedgehog. Of course, Amy nodded. Shadow glared at her. He didn't like being told he couldn't understand something because he was a man. Shadow smirked as a thought occurred to him. Fine. Then I'll take it next chance I get. Take what? Amy tilted her head. She began falling asleep on the couch while Shadow was thinking. Don't worry about it, Rose. Shadow patted her head. Just enjoy your nap. Shadow left the house after throwing a blanket over Amy. Several weeks later on Christmas, they were all gathered in the large room. They were happily eating food and talking. They had long since exchanged gifts and were just enjoying everyone's company. Amy had elected herself to start cleanup of all the wrapping paper that now scattered the floor. Sally came over to help her. Sonic was busy annoying Shadow. Apparently Shadow decided, as he had done every year before, that Christmas wasn't a very important holiday and got everyone a bag of socks. Sonic was currently pouting, lecturing Shadow about how he needed to get everyone better gifts. Amy, however, thought it was funny. Usually the only people who got you clothes for Christmas were family members. How are you enjoying Christmas? Sally asked with a smile. It's great. A lot of work, though, but worth it, Amy giggled as they placed the paper into the trash. I still can't believe you were able to make so much food. Sally glanced at the table covered in dishes. Many of them had been made by Amy. Oh, that I began cooking about a week ago. All those cakes take a lot of time to bake, Amy laughed. So much, Sally gasped. Next time I'll try to make more so you don't have to make so much of it. Trust me, Sal, it's not a problem. Plus, Sonic will probably eat it the moment it's done. If he doesn't, Tails will, the two girls laughed. Shadow walked into the kitchen with Sonic close on his heels. Hey, are you even listening to me, Shadow? Sonic called after the Black Hedgehog. Unfortunately, I am. Shadow cut a large slice of chocolate cake and placed it onto a plastic plate. He began eating happily. Now go bother somebody else. Shadow waved him off with his hand before he began digging into the cake. Sonic pouted at the Black Hedgehog. You're so mean sometimes, Shadow. Amy couldn't help but giggle at the two grown men. What is so funny, Rose? Shadow asked curiously. You too, she stated with a bright smile on her face. That's not nice, Aim. Sonic placed his hands on his hips. But you're both so funny, she continued laughing. Sonic frowned for a moment, but turned into a light smile. Shadow just watched her laugh as he ate his cake. Sonic left to go talk with Tails. Sally went with him. So did that confusion ever get cleared up? Shadow asked in between bites of cakes. She shrugged. I decided not to let it bother me. It is the holidays after all. Don't want to be in a bad mood during them. Shadow nodded. He licked his lips as he finished the cake. You really make the best chocolate cake, Rose. Amy giggled. Thanks, she gestured at the corner of her lips. You have a little... Shadow licked off the excess chocolate. Still delicious. Amy smiled. So when do you want to give me your... What? So when do you want me to give you your Christmas present? Shadow leaned against the counter. Didn't you already give me a pack of socks? Amy tilted her head. No, I didn't. Rouge and Sonic even nagged me about how I didn't get you anything. You don't remember? Shadow pointed to the tree. Oh, I was too busy being memorized by the tree. I've never seen one so big in a place before. Shadow nodded. I figured you were spacing out, otherwise you would have said something. Amy nodded. So, where is my pack of socks? Shadow chuckled. Said I got you a pack of socks. The smirk on his face sent electrical surges up and down Amy's spine. No socks? A card, then? Shadow shook his head. Amy hummed as she thought what it could be. Shadow normally got plain, simple things. He normally got cards. This year he got everyone socks. There wasn't much that Amy could think of that Shadow would get, much less her. A snow globe? Shadow shook his head. Is it a cookbook? Do you want me to make you some fancy chocolate cake? Amy smirked at the idea. Shadow did have a strong love of sweets, chocolate cake, and Swiss rolls seemed to be his favorite treats at the moment. No, Shadow shook his head. Though I should have gotten you that. He crossed his arms over his chest. Why is your birthday so far away? Amy burst out in laughter. She grabbed her stomach as she covered her mouth so she wouldn't disturb the others. It was too late, though. She could see a few of the others peeking into the kitchen from where they sat. They all eventually turned away. Rouge stared at the longest. Do you have any more guesses? Shadow tapped her shoulder. No, Amy shook her head. Come with me then. Shadow held out his hand for her. Amy took his hand and stood upright. Where to? Chaos Control. A quick yellow flash of light and they were no longer in the kitchen. Amy felt the cold on her feet. There was snow everywhere. Amy recognized the place as the balcony of Shadow's apartment. You built a snowman. Amy pointed to the small snowman. It was wearing a scarf and a hat. Yeah, that's what happens after I've watched Frosty and can't go to sleep. Shadow moved a boombox on the table. He opened it and to make sure the cassette tape was still inside. Shadow still used tapes, even though he had been told it was easier and more efficient to have an MP3 player. He, however, opted for the tape. He plugged the boombox in and turned on the tape. So, what's on the tape? Amy asked curiously. Shadow walked up to her and wrapped his arm around her waist. Music so we can dance. Amy flushed as she placed her hand on his shoulder. She hummed along with the song as they danced. Why did you pick Baby It's Cold Outside? Every time it plays, you tap your foot like you want to dance. You've done it for years, Shadow stated. Plus, it's the only Christmas song I can think to dance to. Amy giggled. Well, thank you for such a wonderful Christmas gift. Tell no one I can dance, Shadow ordered as he spun her. Of course, Amy giggled as the slow dance continued. At the end of the dance, Shadow leaned in close and kissed her. Amy gasped as his lips touched hers. She felt her face turn bright red. She even stopped breathing. Shadow pulled back to face large emerald eyes and a bright cherry red face. Merry Christmas, Rose. It took her a second to find her voice. What was that for? Amy squawked. Well, you said you wanted your first kiss to be special, but you were starting to doubt whether it would be special or not. So I solved the issue. Shadow waved his hands. I danced you to a song you like and kissed you. But you also only see me as a friend, so now it's special and not special at the same time. Amy stared at Shadow with a confused look on her face. How does your reasoning work? It just works, Shadow shrugged. Tap, tap, tap. Amy jumped at the sound. Shadow oomphed as he now had a pink hedgehog in his arms. Shadow stared at the shadow chow inside his apartment. Gerald, he opened the sliding glass door. I left plenty of food out for you. Oh, it's just Gerald, Amy sighed as she jumped down from Shadow's grasp into the apartment. Aren't you cute? Amy patted its head. A heart formed over its head. Shadow unplugged the boombox and brought it inside. He probably thinks I'm home for the night. He gets clingy at times. Shadow turned to see Gerald curled up in Amy's arms. He seemed like he was the happiest chow on Mobius. Amy was happily patting his head as she sat on the couch. I see you're already spoiling him rotten, he mothered. Of course. What else am I supposed to do? Amy gave Shadow a look. It was a snarky look, and it was one that if on Rouge he would roll his eyes, but on Amy, Shadow was felt strangely pleased. Just note we have to get back to the Acorn's castle after a bit, Rose. Why? Shadow hadn't even opened his mouth in reply before his phone went off. He pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and stared at Sonic's face. This is why. He held up the phone before answering. Hello, came the flat grating as Shadow made his way to the kitchen. He opened the fridge and pulled out a bottle of alcohol. Uh-huh, yeah, she's here, playing with Gerald. He poured himself a hearty glass of wine. All's well. Shut up, Shadow rolled his eyes dramatically. Sonic asked so many questions. Shadow tapped on the door frame of the kitchen to get Rose's attention. He gestured to the bottle of wine in his hands. Amy thought about it briefly before signing for a little bit. Shadow nodded as he answered Sonic's question with a vague sound of acknowledgement. He poured a small glass frame before replacing the bottle in the fridge. We'll be back in a few minutes, Sonic. Bye. He picked up the two glasses. He handed the smaller one to Amy as he sat next to her, already sipping his. I see someone likes to drink from a chalice. Amy giggled. Shadow's glass was large and indeed was a chalice. I can't drink it from my mug. Rouge will begin saying I have a problem. Shadow made air quotes with his hands. Plus, I feel like I have a problem. I have a nice... Plus, I feel like I have a problem. I have nice glasses for a reason. Amy laughed as she took a sip of wine. Not bad. I figured you would like red wine. They're sweeter. Shadow nodded. We've got to head back now, though. Sonic is worried about you, but I haven't finished this glass. Amy held out the glass. Bring it with you. Shadow teleported them plus the chow back to the party. The party had already dined down. Knuckles had already bailed to go back to his island. Sonic